So I'd say like from 22 to 23, 23 being the bear market, attendance was down from 2022, but 2022 was like a record setting event. Even though 2023 was down, I'd say attendance and like the general sentiment was still really exciting because I think in that time during a bear market, if you were going to a Bitcoin conference, you were here to stay and like you were going to be here during the bear market and you were there to network and for the right reasons, to learn, to build. What did suffer was the sponsorship perspective because companies were just going insolvent left and right, as you know. So, companies that were there in 2022 were just bankrupt and insolvent in 2023. And predicting that, I think, is a different thing that different industries do not have outside of Bitcoin. Like we're volatile on a different level.
Okay, welcome everybody to the new episode of this show. And today I have with me Dillon, who is a business development manager at BTC Inc. Welcome to the show, Dillon, and please introduce yourself and your company.
Yeah, great to be here. Second time's a charm. Yeah, I do business development, BTC Inc, mostly the conference right now, as we're doing several events this year. So people don't know, BTC Inc is the parent company of a couple entities, Bitcoin Magazine being the more publicly known media organization, and then the Bitcoin Conference series, which we've been doing for quite some time and are expanding as Bitcoin expands. So this year in 2024, we'll have 4 events, including the main well-known domestic event, Bitcoin 2024, which hopefully will be the biggest digital asset event ever under the BTC Inc umbrella. There's also a venture fund and a couple other funds, but spending most of my time on the conference and business development around that.
Okay, before going into the different businesses of BTC Inc. and the Bitcoin conference, can you tell us a little bit about your personal story into Bitcoin?
Yeah, definitely. I got into Bitcoin or interested for the first time 2016, around late 2016 to 2017. I guess my first touch, I'm a big fan of the thesis of like different touch points in Bitcoin that Vijay Boyapati talks about. You need like 1 or 2 early touches and then the next one kind of has an impact. So I think the first time I ever heard about it was 2013. And then 2016, 2017 started buying some without knowing, what it was or what I was looking at and kind of, classic retail coming in during that cycle and hearing about it from probably the wrong sources and every other crypto going up throughout that bull market. And then that kind of shifted from like the general interest and excitement that everyone has in the bull run to, I think, a small percentage of people become like totally obsessed and learn about the tech and the background and the game theory and the possibilities and second order effects that Bitcoin can have on everything. So went from an interest in buying and gambling a little bit to like complete obsession and just dedicating all personal time to Bitcoin. And yeah, was full time as a financial advisor at an independent RIA. And I eventually moved my book to a bigger firm, Merrill Lynch. And throughout this time, I was, very personally obsessed in investing with Bitcoin, but during work had to talk about, retirement products and 60/40 portfolios. And I think around 2020 just hit a point where I was like, does not make sense to spend your 24 hours on anything other than Bitcoin. So started looking for some Bitcoin only companies and ended up at Bitcoin Magazine at that time.
And when you joined BTC Inc., you went straight to Bitcoin Magazine or to the Bitcoin conference? What was your percourse?
Yeah, it was structured a little bit differently back then and far fewer employees. Since kind of separated the entities and now I'm definitely like pretty much fully focused on the conferences. At the start, yeah, I was kind of gearing up heading into that 2021 area of more interest in the space. So they were kind of just like plugging holes and getting help wherever they could. So I helped on the Bitcoin Magazine side and definitely on the conferences, that 2021 event, and then into 2022, which was at the time the biggest crypto event with I think 26,000 attendees. So doing everything from business development and partnerships and sponsorships and helping with a little bit with programming and just attendees and everything possible to kind of make the event a success.
Yeah, and speaking about the event, I mean, you first came under my radar for the huge conferences that you're organizing every year in Miami. What is the secret sauce behind this amazing conference, and what makes it quite unique?
I think there's a couple things. One that, from like a zoomed out perspective, made it really big was there really isn't another event or entity in the space that kind of takes the Bitcoin focus angle. I wouldn't say, I think a lot of people here would say like we're not Bitcoin maximalists, but we are Bitcoin focused. And one of the only entities in the space that even has like an editorial thesis or standards for who can participate. I think, focusing on Bitcoin and not the rest of the crypto ecosystem allowed like some major players to put their name or brands behind it and get involved, either from the institutional level or from the very well respected individual level or high net worth level, and know that they're being a part of something that won't be gone in 4 years because it's a scam or something like that. So I think that allowed us to like make a statement for market share and really grow the event into something huge. And then also just the Bitcoin culture side of an event like that. It's like other fintech or finance events, they're buttoned up and they're, you could say boring, and they don't have like the fun culture aspect that a Bitcoin conference should have. So we want it to be, like the Coachella of Bitcoin, but also a very professional, high signal event for people if you're there for kind of the enterprise perspective as well.
Yeah, there's a kind of unique mix that you can find there where you have like business going on, but at the same time, in a fun and relaxed manner. I mean, here in Europe, we have a lot of conferences, but nothing comes close to what you're organizing in Miami. So, what what people tend to do is put blockchain conferences, crypto conferences, NFT. Paris is a big one. You have also financial, digital finance type of finances where you're bringing finance and you're putting digital crypto assets and artificial intelligence and all type of stuff, trying to market for a broader audience and pick up. So blockchain, like everybody's, you have much more people connecting to the world, from Bitcoiners to shitcoiners to all type of software service providers. And what made you take this angle of having like a label as strong as Bitcoin? When we look also at our ETF, we have a Bitcoin equities ETF, and when you look where we invest in Bitcoin companies, but most of our competitors, they chose blockchain or digital assets or like smoother name. You make a big stance on it. What's the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a much bigger decision from the parent company level and from our CEO, David, deciding that and just, putting emphasis on the personal conviction that we all had and definitely he had that Bitcoin is different than everything else and it deserves to be treated differently. And the conviction that individuals have in Bitcoin can expand to a business perspective. And in the last cycle, talk to businesses all the time that were working on their metaverse thesis or new token or a new private blockchain or something, and 3 years goes by and it doesn't exist. And at the very least, we know that's not going to be the case with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is something very different that is fundamentally one of the best freedom technologies for humanity, one of the apex predator of money, and building any sort of business with that knowledge is kind of giving you an edge over people that are going to basically figure it out a couple of years later. You're kind of just early to something that I think a lot of people are going to figure out in due time.
So even during the period 2021, I would say, when you had the whole crypto craze, you didn't pick up. I'm sure you picked up like some of the audience that was crypto audience rather than Bitcoin. Bitcoin was like a generic word for it. How did the audience evolve from blockchain, crypto, and all the other technologies back to Bitcoin only conference?
Yeah, well, thinking about 2021 and every conference since then, I actually think most of the audience, 99%, is broader crypto, interested audience, not just like Bitcoin maxis or Bitcoin only folks, but there's always the crossover of if you're into crypto, like you definitely are interested and want to know what's going on in Bitcoin as well. So I think we got the best of both worlds where the editorial thesis and, who can sponsor, who can speak is Bitcoin focused. So we're really, diving into what's happening on Bitcoin, what's good for the Bitcoin network, what's innovative. But the attendees, are all of the above, and they could be someone who bought Bitcoin for the first time. They could be someone with 0% in their portfolio, but they can come and learn and network. So it really opens up to a lot of different, like basically every sector of the entire industry, and hopefully funnels them into a better understanding of Bitcoin when they leave.
Okay, and working on these conferences, in any conference, if you go to, I don't know, tech conferences or real estate conferences or wherever, you have some ups and down cycles that are plus or minus 10%, and then the attendance grows and reduces a little bit. With Bitcoin, you must have had a lot of swings. How do you manage to project a conference date, a conference budget, all this organization, and then without knowing where the Bitcoin price is going to be, and then you end up in a bear market, and it must be very nerve-wracking doing your job, organizing this type of conferences, no?
Well, it's funny, like both Bitcoin businesses and events are kind of a reflection of where Bitcoin as an asset is on, price wise. So Bitcoin businesses obviously suffer and struggle more during the bear market, and events do too. And then they both exceed during the Bitcoin bull market and are obviously making more money and getting more interest. So I'd say like from 22 to 23 being the bear market, attendance was down from 2022, but 2022 was like a record setting event. And even though 2023 was down, I'd say attendance and like the general sentiment was still really exciting. Cause I think in that time during a bear market, if you were going to a Bitcoin conference, you were, here to stay, and like you were going to be here during the bear market, and you were there to network and for the right reasons, to learn, to build. Um, what did suffer was from kind of like the sponsorship perspective, because companies were just going insolvent left and right, as you know. So, companies that were there in 2022 were just bankrupt and insolvent in 2023. And predicting that, I think, is a different thing that different industries do not have outside of Bitcoin. Like we're volatile on a different level.
Yeah, so it must be very hard for you to bring on customers and then having your customers disappear. How did the audience and the attendees and the speakers evolve during these ups and downs? Like, was there any cleanup that was done? Was there any different type of audience evolution in terms of typology of people attending, of people speaking, etc.? How how have been this the past 3 years, and how do you see the next one going on?
Definitely. It's a reflection of where Bitcoin is at, which is great because we're all bullish on Bitcoin, and we know it's going to grow over time and bring more people and sectors and industries into the fold. So, if you look at like pre 2020, conferences were tiny, and there were, big conferences would be a couple thousand people. And then with Bitcoin expanding and different and bull markets coming and cycles continuing, went from a couple thousand people to major institutions, CEOs, Fortune 500 C-suite speaking on the biggest stage on Bitcoin, heads of nation states, like announcements. We had the El Salvador announcement on stage. So like truly setting records and making history in person at these events for where Bitcoin is as an asset and as a network and as an industry. And I think that comes with, just where Bitcoin's at in the world. And that was obviously never going to happen in 2015. It just takes like the industry growing and then the price rising and more people getting interested, more money coming in to kind of get to where we're at now. And with the ETFs, like I'm pretty confident that Bitcoin 2024 will be our biggest event ever. And from the institutional perspective, it'll be the most institutionally attended. Almost every ETF provider, custodian will be involved in some capacity. And, the stage presence and announcements are just going to be at a different level. They're going to be at bull market level. They're going to be, like history making and world changing like they were in 2022 when records were set. So I think it's a really interesting time, and taking advantage of the cycles is one of the best parts.
Yeah, I guess that with the amazing success of the Bitcoin ETFs and all the AUM that have been raised by these ETFs since they have been launched, I suppose the ETF issuers will come in and will bring their audience, which is a much more bigger pockets audience, but also more financially savvy and aware audience that could also bring the conference to a much higher level.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
and you did you expanded in Europe, and you did Bitcoin Amsterdam. What's your feedback from the European version versus the US version?
So we did Amsterdam 2 years now, and this will be our third year in 2024, later in the year. Last year, the conference was really high signal and high impact. Everyone who told me how it was going for them described it as, it felt like a 2013 event where everyone was discussing, true innovation and development and what they're working on, and what they're investing in, how they're actually building apps and products for Bitcoin, and like it truly felt like I don't know, it almost felt like a gigantic developer conference. And obviously there were some more like macro and TradFi speakers as well. But I think the excitement was around for the first time since I've seen like building on Bitcoin. I think it coincided a lot with ordinals and kind of like this Bitcoin season 2 narrative that's come around, that's just bringing development and excitement and venture back to Bitcoin from the other chains, which is a great thing. So I think Amsterdam last year was a reflection of that, and I think that's just going to continue for this year and hopefully past this cycle as well.
Okay, and did you have any setbacks or any, like in the Bitcoin space, there's always the anti-Bitcoin or the pro CBDC. So, however you follow the space, you can see a lot of pushback. How did you live it from organizing a conference and pitching people to come over and to sponsor it? Do you have any story you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're describing is like what we're fighting against in general. So, like internally, we definitely did not have setbacks. That's kind of the mission. Like from the media side as well, it's like all the misinformation about everything you could imagine, from Bitcoin energy to why CBDCs are better for Bitcoin, better than Bitcoin. It's like that's basically been the mission of Bitcoin Magazine and the entity as a whole, to dispel that and provide like a real Bitcoin native publication and media outlet and event space that is by Bitcoin, by actual Bitcoin users and for actual Bitcoin users. So I wouldn't say there was any sort of like unexpected struggles. Like we would never, we wouldn't be like inviting CBDC advocates to speak and then have an issue when they can't come. It's more so like, let's get on stage and just like tell the world why CBDCs are bad and basically the antithesis to Bitcoin. And they're not going to hear that anywhere else. I think a major European central bank conference was going on the same week as Bitcoin Amsterdam 2 down the road. So it was coinciding pretty nicely. I wouldn't say there was any like pushback or fight. It was just, that was the mission from the start anyway.
Okay, interesting, this coincidence with the ECB. Perhaps one day you'll have a central banker talking on stage. Actually, there are some central bankers that are anti or that used to be central bankers and now that are taking an anti money printing stance. So perhaps they could be one of your speakers?
I think we got one. If you're talking about our Argentina president, and he's obviously top of list to get on stage, and hopefully we get him.
Yeah, for example. Okay, just to wrap it up, can you remind our audience about the date and the details about the event and everything they need to know, and also for people interested into sponsoring, what kind of exposure you can give them and how they can do that?
Yeah, definitely. We have so we didn't mention some of the other events, but we have Bitcoin Hong Kong coming up in May 9th to 10th. That's our first large scale event in Asia, and I think it's going to be really exciting to break into that market for the first time for our company. From what I've been told, they have a very different understanding and perspective on Bitcoin, and I think, at least for me personally, like being in the West, and I see kind of an echo chamber of what the Bitcoin sentiment is and what people are interested in. So it's going to be very cool to expand to really see how global Bitcoin is and get some of those perspectives. And then Bitcoin 2024 in Nashville will be July 25th to 27th. We're also going to be doing an Abu Dhabi event this year and Amsterdam later in the year as well. So feel free to reach out. Can put my contact info somewhere here, and happy to discuss, any way you want to get involved, or even just come and hang out and experience it for the first time.
Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks a lot, Dylan, for sharing all these details. And I'm happy to have you again on the show as soon as you have any new events launching in. And for those listening, hope to see you there. Take
Yeah, I'll
care.
see you. Thanks.